Hello, all. My name is Erta the Wanderer, and I've come out of the jungle today to talk with one of our most esteemed generals, the Great Lizard Wizard. How are we doing today, Wizard?
Doing well, thank you. How have you been?
So far, so good. Changes on the horizon. But for the most part today, we're going to be talking about our friendly sky dwarves. But before that, I know that you're a chaos lover, and
Yep.
we've got some good news on that front for you. We've got a huge release for Slanesh coming up soon. Should be in February, is what they were saying.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Hmm. You're getting Sigvald back. You're getting your whole
Uh-huh.
mortal half.
Yeah, so is for Chaos, Mortals have always been the side I like. Um, and so I was disappointed when the previous Hedonites of Slaanesh book came out. That super long year ago. Um, and there was like no mortals in it, like literally. The few mortal heroes that Slaanesh had previously to the book coming out, like the old Sigvald model that was a Chaos Lord of Slaanesh and the Chaos Lord of Slaanesh on Demonic Steed. Like all those even went away. Like they completely removed the mortal half. But Sileski was beautiful. And so I was like, I just want a Sileski army, like an army with that motif. So
Mm,
now seeing this half come out, really excited because that's basically what it is.
yeah, I can see that, especially considering that, well, for one, the fiends don't look as terrible as they once did.
Yeah, and I rather like I know a lot of people didn't like the new Fiend kit, but I really liked them. I don't know.
Really,
Um
that
that like
that surprises me.
contorted body horror stuff, like combined with like the elegant and high geometry like patterns and filigree and all of that. I don't know, I liked that mix.
Fair enough. You're also getting a new book, which,
Yeah.
yay, I suppose. Let's hope that Slanesh isn't as omnipresent as they were.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see um
Like, mainly how it's gonna
how
change.
or yeah, like what's gonna their allegiance ability is gonna be the same. Like, um,
I mean, it better not be, if we're being perfectly honest. Their, their allegiance abilities are so terribly feast or famine, it either works and you completely win no matter what, or it
mm.
doesn't and it doesn't matter. That's how remarkably lopsided their first book was.
Oh yeah, like before any rules or other changes came out.
Mm-hmm. And
We had some really good Slanesh players in my area, and I always had pretty close games, but they were never like this is an army I can't beat.
mm-hmm.
Um, and I imagine they're going to be roughly in that same power level again. Like they're just so fast and so hard hitting, and generally have lackluster saves. Like a 4+ save isn't what it used to be.
No, it
Um,
really isn't.
so if they're still staying in that like 4+, 5+ save range, I don't think they're going to be an unconquerable problem. But I think they're going to be good.
Mm.
I'll be sad if they're not good. Like if they're releasing a whole new line
I mean, it would
and
be
they come
following a
out at like
pattern.
yeah, no, they could totally come out at like that Sons of Behemoth level of power and just be bad.
Yeah.
If they're bad though, I assume it's going to be because they're over pointed, not because they have bad rules.
Yeah, that makes sense. The mm, like as long as you don't end the game with two and a half armies on your side of the board, which was
You
the
mean you didn't like it that you would bring two keepers and by the time they both died, you had another keeper?
you had more than just one. You had three.
Well, I mean, you'd only get one out of the two in terms of like how they would replace.
Yeah, only if you're
But
playing
yeah,
badly.
through all your other summoning things.
Yeah,
Uh,
and people say
yeah.
Seraphon's summoning was busted. Good lord.
What what I'm really excited to see or interested to see is what, if anything, changes with the endless spells that Slanesh currently has out. because this is going to be the first book that comes out for an army that had endless spells in it, and
Mm-hmm.
now they're going to get new rules. So that's what I'm really interested to see, and we'll definitely be looking at in terms of predictive for the future of the next phase of Age of Sigmar. Because I don't think endless spells are going to disappear, but I'm interested to see what, if anything, changes about them. Um, and I wouldn't be surprised if like malign sorcery rotates out and we get a different box of endless spells or something. Like I'm not sure, but there definitely needs to be some rule changes with endless spells, and I assume whenever third edition comes out, it's gonna have some.
That's fair enough. Yeah, they
So
tend
what
to be.
happens with this might tell us.
It'll definitely be a good gauge in the water. I just feel bad for all those Stormcast, Sylvaneth, Fire Slayers, and everyone else who needs a book worse than Slanesh does.
Oh, I don't feel bad for Stormcast. They're on like what, their fourth or fifth book since
Granted,
I've been with the game.
their fourth and fifth terrible, terrible book that they still can't get these poor guys right.
I mean, yeah, but they also still do fine at events.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean,
like
yes, if you don't play it all like Stormcast and use two of their many, many models.
when Stormcast Vanguard Brotherhood won two OVOs in a row before second edition came out. Like Stormcast have had their moment, so like I don't I like Stormcast. I own over 5,000 points of Stormcast,
Oh,
so
wow.
I won't be upset if they're good. But I also don't feel like they've been ignored.
I mean, granted, no, they haven't been ignored, but they also aren't doing terribly well, and
Yeah,
they've been waiting longer. Is the general thing,
that's true.
and I don't
The
think anyone should wait 5 years for a new book.
What's it's been what, 2 years because they came out at the start of second edition,
It's
or a
been
year and a
it's been
half.
it's been let's see, it's been just over 2 years. So if they came out at the start of second edition, then or a bit earlier,
Yeah,
then
because second
yeah.
edition was what, May 2018.
Hmm. Was really
Thought it was.
no
Man, I don't know.
that's after I joined.
2020's been a really long year.
Granted, but no, May was after I joined, and I've only been part of second edition.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, it would have been a bit earlier, but yeah, it's just around that area. But yep. Then you think of things like Korn, who doesn't play at all like Korn, Sylvaneth, who came out broken and they haven't been fixed at all,
Yep.
and poor Fire Slayers who need the models that Slanesh just got.
Yeah,
Or
Fire Slayers is like super good. Like they're one of the best Anvil armies.
yep, but they've
Um,
got like four kits in total.
exactly. Yeah. Um,
All their
yeah.
hero kits are the same thing, only with different weapons, and sometimes they're on a lizard, except the lizard is terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's good. It's just you want more points in Hearthguard.
Granted,
like, like as a behemoth, and a hero behemoth, like
it could be much
they're
worse.
arguably better than our Carnosaurs.
Oh, definitely.
Uh,
That's
but
not saying a whole lot, though.
fair, fair.
Yep, but beyond that, so big turn on the horizon. We're going to have another Chaos Earth to contend with. But
Mhm.
another thing we've got going is we've got our full Underworlds warband. I just pulled it up on the screen now. But man, it's been a long time coming to see Seraphon models, and there are some very mixed opinions on these guys.
I like them. Like the little pug-faced skink has grown on me. Um,
Hmm.
the one with the scrunchy nose in the
I,
back.
yeah,
Yep,
I
he's
see him.
grown on me. I don't know. Uh, I like the models in general. I really like the aesthetics of like their various paraphernalia, like the clubs, the belts, the armor plates. Um, that's all fantastic. The
Hmm.
chameleon skink, that's perfect. Give me a new plastic kit. I'll replace all 40 of them.
That's fair enough. I I really enjoy the two that they spoiled, the chameleon skink and the priest. I think that's a
Yes.
bit telling, but those two I think look amazing, which is probably why they showed them off.
Yep.
I
Yep.
I think that the Carnosaur is just a Blood Bowl model. He's
Hmm.
in the same pose. For the most part, he has the same
Yeah, the
armor.
stars.
Yeah, and so I'm remarkably disappointed. When I heard we were getting a new Old Blood, I was like, I was excited because I'm all,
Hmm.
ooh, you can't buy the Old Blood kit on foot still, which is weird. We're the only
Mm.
foot model that you still can't do that with. Um, and I was thinking, you know that one limited edition, like dinosaur warrior kit that was online a couple with the guy who's like crouching over the rock with the spear out to the side.
Oh yeah, yeah, the one that
Yeah, when I heard new Old Blood, I thought that, and I'm all, ooh, this is gonna be fun. Or at the
Mhm.
very least, I was thinking of a proper hero guy instead of just look at me here.
Yeah, that's Lexalot of Lustria. That was a fan made build of his. At least I think I'm pronouncing his name right if I remember.
Yep, and
Um
and so I guess I worked myself up, and I shouldn't have gotten my expectations up, but he's a big disappointment. And I think that
yeah,
the other skinks have just been hit 3 or 4 times too often with the ugly stick, but well, new models are new models.
I mean I like them. Like I don't have a problem with them. I personally like the aesthetic of the Blood Bowl skinks more.
Uh-huh.
Um
I would
but
agree in this case.
I
Normally I
think
disagree with you, but I think they look better than these guys.
yeah, like this was a more serious versus cutesy version. But if I'm being honest, I have no problem with skinks being adorable. Like that is fine. I will play that army still.
Hmm.
Um, but I like the feathers, the armor, the jewelry.
The
Um,
weapons, all of the above, yes, those parts I
mhm.
do enjoy. I just don't know what they did with their poor face.
And I really like the crest on the skink priest. Like it's very reminiscent of the old 10 and
Oh,
1 model.
oh, that's fair.
Um,
Yeah, that
yeah.
does. Yeah, it's this whole multicolored thing.
But yeah, I like the new models. I totally get why some people don't. But if they made a new skink kit and that's what they looked like, uh, I would probably swap out my main unit of current skinks and just use the ones I have for summoning. Like
Mm.
I would actually buy the kit, despite the fact that I own like 200 skinks.
Yeah, that's the one area in this hobby I've got you beat. I've got so many skinks.
Yeah.
Ah, well,
I mean, if they made salamanders, I'd rebuy my 9 salamanders.
true, but I was the same way with Croxagore, but
Mm.
seeing them now, I'm actually kind of glad they didn't.
Yeah, that's fair. I can
Yeah,
respect that.
I suppose I'm just bitter.
I'm really excited to see whatever rules they get. Like that's what I'm looking forward to.
True. I'm hoping that like the only thing that can compel me to buy these guys at this point, because I have a lot of priests that I kit bash that I really like. I
Mm.
don't really run the rest of them, and the old blood is such a mediocre build. Is if the rules are pretty awesome.
Yeah. Like hopefully I would like to see him not have the serpent staff or the seer staff or the other priest, right? Like I would like him to have a unique staff ability.
Hmm.
Um,
To be
but if he's
perfectly
just a star
honest,
priest,
it's going to mostly be he's just a star priest with a blade of wounds. That's what most of these guys
yeah,
are.
yeah.
May,
Which, if I'm being honest, we could use.
yes, we definitely could. That would actually be very, very useful, provided it doesn't balloon the cost exponentially.
Yeah, if so normally like the heroes like 120, like it'll stay whatever the regular hero price is. And then they'll add 80 points onto that. So I wouldn't be surprised if he costs 200 and then his cadre is 0.
Mm,
Um
that's generally what it is. The
yeah.
thing is, I
So
don't
it's like
know.
buying Sarsgaard for your star priest.
which is what everyone said would fix Star's Guard, but nope.
I
And
mean, I still bring Sarsgaard because of
granted,
what we're about to talk about today.
oh my yes, this I don't think any of the skinks outside of him are going to be at all useful, especially if they keep the same profile. Single skink models are terrible.
Yeah, they're just ablative wounds.
Yep.
I mean, the chameleon skink, two shots, threes and fours, sixes do mortal wounds. Like it might do some damage.
Yeah, you can plink away. And the old blood, I like maybe they'll combine the skink priest and the old blood war scroll,
Hmm.
considering that's what they've essentially done here. Which, I mean, I would really like because I run Saurus, but isn't generally applicable.
Yeah, yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of unknowns here, but and it's going to be a month until we find out.
Mhm.
Uh, Anything else? I think that's everything that's new from the Great GW.
Yes, yeah. At least everything that I cared about. Like there's some 40k stuff, but whatever.
Yeah, there's some 40k stuff, some Blood Bolts stuff, which I mean, they're at least fun models, but no, we don't play either of those.
Yeah, I'm. Yeah. KO then.
Yeah, the surprisingly scarce boogeyman that I have been continually worried about.
Yeah. So I feel like KO uh is part of the driving force that makes Dracothian Tell um strong in this meta. It's both very good against it and somewhat vulnerable to it. Um,
Hmm.
like if they spike their dice and you were planning on teleporting uh, Croak and dropping your models, and they spike your dice and they get through your Sars guard and they get through your ablative saves and wounds and they kill Croak, like that's just game now.
That's
Um,
a tall order even for KO, but yeah.
exactly, yeah. Like it shouldn't happen, which is part of what makes um, Dracothian's Tell so strong against Keratin Overlords. Um, But yeah, Keratin Overlords is a scary army. They've got really strong allegiance abilities. Um, like Aether Gold is just amazing, and a lot of people undervalue it or fail to plan around it. Um,
Yeah, I keep forgetting about it when I do math for them
yeah, yeah.
because I normally just look at war scrolls, but they've constantly got triumphs going for them.
Yes, yeah, yeah. For those who don't know, Aether Gold, each Kharadron Overlord's hero, Sky Vessel, or a unit that has 10 or more models, they start the battle with Aether Gold. Um, Once during any phase, they can spend that Aether Gold and give that unit one of the base three triumphs. So reroll hits, reroll wounds, reroll saves.
Which is
Um,
really good for a lot of different reasons.
yeah, it's huge. Like being able to reroll saves to counter alpha strikes, massive, especially when you're dealing with 3 and 4 up save
And,
models.
and
Uh,
Thunderers hitting on fours, re-rolling completely puts their damage a lot higher than I first thought when I
yes,
yeah because
and like the great sky cannon on the
mm-hmm,
not the frigate, the main ship.
yeah I keep
Like
pulling up
6 shots. Yeah.
KO's stats and thinking, wait, why are people afraid of these things?
Yeah.
Oh wait, that's why. Because
The thing to keep in mind, and that I even see people who play the army forget, is that it's only once per phase. So if they do it in the shooting phase, they can't do it again in the shooting phase. So like that's the kind of thing you'll have to keep your opponent honest about sometimes. And like I'm sure there are some people who are just trying to cheat or whatever, but it's really easy to lose track of that type of stuff.
yeah, we saw
Um,
in my game with putts that it's easy to forget stuff. I
yeah.
did it all the time. I'm rusty.
Um, so like that's one of the things you'll want to make sure you know. They have their code, which is their other thing. Uh, it doesn't. You don't need to know all of them. Like there's some good ones, and then if they take a Skyfleet, which is like their sub factions,
Mm-hmm.
there's some ones they're forced to take. They just have different ways to reroll things or get extra gold for Aether Gold or that sort of a thing. It's
Yep.
not really something you plan around. It's not really something you can control. Just
A-
make sure you're aware of what.
Ask at the beginning of the game because
Yep,
they have a lot of flexibility in this area,
yep,
and it's really not worth memorizing everything they can do.
yep. Uh, One of the big ones is there's no trading with some people. Once per battle, carriage and overlord units can run and/or retreat and still shoot and/or charge. This one's big because it affects your planning for screens,
Hmm.
um, which is one of our main mechanisms for dealing with carriage and overlords. You can't screen their cannons, but you can screen their pistols. Um,
Their pistols, their thunderers, anything
exactly. Yep.
that's in a boat, you can screen properly from if you're careful and have skinks.
Yep. Um,
The thing that surprises me about KO, as good as they are, I have almost zero stats on them. I've been trying to math the tournament scene on TTS, and people don't play them.
Yeah, one, they're not very fun to play.
Really?
Um, yeah, I mean, how they play is you deploy on the back of the table as a 2 or 4 drop army out of range from your opponent. You make them go first. You fly high. You shoot everything at them. If you double turn, you win. Um,
Ha!
like that's KO. Uh,
One of the many reasons I really hate the double turn. But yep.
like it's not a very fun game. And so I think that's part of it. And KO was really bad for a really long time.
Yeah,
So there are a lot of KO models that were super cheap out on the market for a long time. And I know a ton of people that have KO and tried for like a year to get rid of it. So I don't think there's like a shortage of KO models. And I definitely think that's part of what drives what gets played on TTS. Like if it's something you can play not on TTS, I feel like people are a little bit less likely to gravitate towards it.
that's fair. I just really wish I could actually
Yeah, get
work
some
with numbers.
metrics.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
one of those people. I really like to know.
yeah. So in terms of KO, there's basically two major strategies. Um, there's uh, boats that have units inside of them that are garrisoned in them, or there's running a bunch of the little small cannons, the gun haulers. Um, like sometimes you'll see a list that's 8 sky drills because on a 6 to hit it's just flat 3 mortal wounds.
Which is
um
good.
yeah, which is good. Like they'll kill Croak.
uh,
um
I mean, yeah, get enough of them in there.
yeah, yeah. Like it's scary. Or you'll see like a more traditional list with maybe one big boat or two of the big boats or something like that. And normally those are coming in battalions, and that's how they're getting to that like 2 or 4 drop range. A lot of people will take double battalion with KO, just because controlling tempo when you have full mobility, just like the Fangs of Sotek list of old. Um,
Only they do it better than we ever did.
yeah, because they're really damaging. Um, and sometimes you'll see a major variation with that big ships list, and it is an artifact. It's the spell in a bottle.
Yeah,
Um,
their artifacts are really good. Like
yeah,
so
uh,
many good options there, which is probably the main reasons they go for battalions after drops.
yes, yeah. Like so, KO doesn't have any wizards. They have a pseudo priest. But their Aether Chemist is one of their buffing support heroes, and they have access to an artifact called Spell in a Bottle, which lets them pick an endless spell,
Autocast
uh,
it.
auto cast it uh, once per game. They can't do it again. It's just the one time. But generally speaking, what you see is the Skaven spell,
Warp
their
lightning
lightning.
vortex.
Yeah, Warp Lightning Vortex, which is just a crazy good spell. Like
Yep.
throws out tons of mortal wounds, reduces movement, reduces fly. It's great. They don't have to worry about it because they have Lords of Space and Time, or well,
But
yeah, they
better.
have Lords of Space and Time through Fly High. So it's not restrictive for them. Um, it's what you most often see. Sometimes you'll see them take the Stormcast Eternal Comet. Um, but that's a lot less common.
Yeah, mainly
Um,
when they think they're going up against casters.
yep, exactly. Uh, it's showed up more because of us, like because of Seraphon. Some people have started taking Stormcast Eternal Common.
Hmm.
Um, Between like us, Lumineth, Osiarch Bone Reapers, Disciples of Zinch, it started to see some play. Um, I would much rather be hit by Comet than by Warp Lightning Vortex, though.
Agreed.
Like
There's a
especially
reason
on the
why
back end of a double turn.
there's a reason why they nerfed it twice, and it's
Hmm.
still the best endless spell there is.
And what they nerfed for that endless spell was range. And as we get into this army, you will see that that range issue is no issue for the KO. So it's not even functioning at a nerfed level. Like it's
Hmm. Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, oh, you mean you shouldn't start the game with an endless spell hitting your entire army? I would never have thought that. Who
Yeah, I
designed
know,
this
right?
thing? Okay,
Uh,
the lore builders designed this thing and decided everything had to be
yep.
multiples of 13 because
The
scaling.
yeah, yeah, yep. Good times. I mean, 26 inches plus 7. You don't think a 30-inch effective threat range on an endless spell is too much?
On not only an endless spell, but an endless spell that reduces movement and does
Yep.
horrendous amounts of damage.
And takes up a huge
No.
area. Yeah. So aside from Spell in the Bottle, their pseudo priest can take two other really great artifacts. He can take a Voidstone Orb, which is an unbind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's like your standard scroll of unbinding or whatever. And then they have Savrig Stein Illuminator Flare Pistol. Um, this could be real scary. It's the first time in the battle that the bearer's ranging pistol scores a hit, they can re-roll hit rolls for all attacks made by other friendly carriage and overlord units for that same phase. It doesn't have to do damage; they just have to hit with it, and it's three shots, threes and threes, if I remember.
So yeah, it's
Um,
going to hit, and that means their entire boat that they're in is now re-rolling.
it means their whole army,
Oh,
all carriage and overlord units that target that same unit, get to re-roll their
oh.
hits.
So yeah, it's not. I keep forgetting it's not a range thing. It's a single target unit. But yeah, that unit's
Yes,
dead.
yeah, that's
Even
what makes like Croak, even when he's castled, vulnerable. Like it's why you need to zone. It's not necessarily to stop as much as the shooting; it's to prevent the range um, from the navigator. Finally, remember the name of that hero. Good me. It stops the navigator from getting in range to attack and proc his flare pistol. Like
mm-hmm.
that's one of the things we have to be conscious about zoning.
Yep.
Um,
Granted, we're one of the better armies to deal with said zoning, and we have a
oh yeah,
lot of practice with teleporting.
yep.
Just
And then they
remember,
have like,
yeah, just
go ahead.
remember everything that was annoying for you guys back in the day, and then do that.
Yes, yep, yep, exactly. They have like marvelous great engine works and other things that affect their ships. None of them are super crazy. Some of them shoot when you charge them. That's not really as big of a deal for us.
Yeah,
Um,
that one's
there's
really thematic, and I love the idea of. I love the lore idea behind a lot
mhm,
of these abilities. Makes me jealous, kinda. But yeah, the whole idea of they're charging, fire the guns one last time is just so much
yes,
fun. But yeah, there's also ones that make their ships more durable. Uh,
yes,
those are probably the two you'll see on ships most.
yep. And there's several skyports. Barrack Zilfin, the windswept city, is pretty common because it has decent notes and articles, and it lets them redeploy a sky vessel.
Hmm.
Um, so that one's pretty common.
Yeah, the
Uh,
common ones are the ones that give more Aether
Urbaz, also
Gold,
common.
and the ones that make the one that makes gunboats battle line, and the one that makes
Yes,
thunderers battle line.
yes,
Because Arcanauts are still terrible.
yes. uh, and then they've got 3 battalions that are actually worth taking. Uh, the escort wing is the one you'll see if people are running all the gunstruck gun haulers.
Hmm.
Like if they're running the 8 gunstruck list or 7 gunstruck list. Um, and it you can get to a 2-drop pretty easily with that. Like, you could be 1-drop, it's just not worth it because you want other heroes.
Right.
Um, and
Yeah,
then,
the sacrifices you have to make.
yep. The 2-drop list normally uses Iron Sky Attack Squadron, which is 2 frigates, and then an Argonaut company for each frigate, and the Iron Sky Command, which is how they bring in their heroes and other things. So that ends up at a 2-drop list. It's terrifying, uh, and it's probably one of the more competitive ways to build KO.
Hmm. Because
Um,
yeah, those big cannons can hurt when they're
yeah,
re-rolling everything.
yep.
they
Uh,
Man,
so in
KO is
terms of
just yeah, KO
yeah,
is just our old book, but not terrible.
yeah, and in terms of how their army plays, it really revolves around their skyships, which is cool. It's good. It absolutely should.
And yeah,
Um,
that it makes perfect sense.
but they have two major mechanics that impact that style of play. One is that they can garrison their skyships and different sized vessels. There's two you can do it. You can do it in the ironclad. You can do it in the frigate. The size of those vessels determines how many can be garrisoned in them. But units that are garrisoned get the whole garrison keyword. Um, so they still count as being that many models, but now they fit on that size of footprint for the base for those ships.
Hmm.
So they still hold objectives, and they get the -1 to hit and the benefit of cover. Um, Most KO stuff now has a 4+ save or better. Some of their heroes are at 3+ save, and their ironclad is at a 3+ save. Um, so taking all those 4+ save uh, base units and turning them into that 3+ save, -1 to hit gives them a lot of durability. Um,
Which is
and
good.
yep,
Their
and their
major
ships went up in wounds as well.
their major weakness is if their ships die.
Yep. Uh,
Especially in melee. Watching the whole thing
yes.
go down in flames is super rewarding when you get it to work, but also kind of tragic for the KO player.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other big rule they have on their ships is fly high, and this is also on the gun haulers, which are basically just a flying cannon. Instead of making a normal move, uh,
They
based on
teleport.
their wound table,
They
they get to Lords of
teleport.
Space and Time. Yeah, and that brings everything that's garrisoned in it with them, and
And
then some other units
and
that
then
can
a
latch on.
chainsaw. They've got chainsaw balloon dwarves, which are
Yep.
actually fairly popular, which
Yeah. Yeah.
makes sense. It's their only melee unit that can
Yep.
that yeah that just hooks onto them and flies with them.
Yeah. Either Sky Wardens or Engine Riggers. Like Sky Wardens aren't. They're both decent in melee. Like the harpoon, like the Sky Pike or whatever, isn't bad. Like they're both scary. They're just one's a bit more supporty, one's a bit more shooty. Um, but yeah, that's the whole crux of their army. They load everything up in their boats. Their boats can fly around instead of moving. Um, they have to be outside of 9 inches. Uh, their main guns on their ships have like 30 to 24 inches, depending. Um,
Which is it's on the upper
it's a
end
lot.
of range for
Yeah,
artillery.
yeah, and then you combine that with them being able to move anywhere outside of 9 inches of you. However, their ability to fly high does tier. Um,
Yes,
like,
if you hurt them enough, they can't do it anymore.
yeah, you only have to deal 7 wounds to the ironclad, and they can't fly high. Or I think it's like 6 wounds. Nope, it's the same. It's seven. Yeah, if you do 7 wounds to either the frigate or the ironclad, they can't fly high, but they have ways to heal their boats. Um, so it's not like you can just ping it down the one time and forget about it. Like,
I mean, pinging it
if you can
down
kill them, you want to kill them.
will hamper them pretty hard, but yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Especially if they don't have things in their list that let them heal. Um, but that's their core mechanic. So that along with like spell in the bottle, they can pick up their ship, be 9 inches away from you, drop warp lightning vortex right where they want it. Um, and they have fairly shot solid shooting. Like a lot of their shooting is threes and threes or threes and fours. Um,
Unbuffed, their uh, unbuffed, their boats do on average of 15 damage. The big
Uh-huh.
ironclads, and same with thunderers. So a boat with full complement of thunderers will do about 30 damage to wherever it hits.
Yeah.
That's unbuffed, and remember that pistol exists, and so does Urgold. So that's going to be a
Yeah, for the
lot.
rerolls.
That's going to be a lot higher.
Yeah. And that I mean it is a lot of points. Like that Ironclad I think is now 500 points because I know it got a slight point buff.
Well, we can
Um
always check. Half a second.
yeah, and then Thunderers are I want to say like 100 per 5, but I can't remember. Let me or 140. I think Thunderers are 140 or 120 per 5. So it is expensive, like um
The ironclad is 480,
480 now. Yeah. So
and
uh
let's see, thunderers are 120 for five.
to put it in perspective, damage per point, it's more effective than salamanders.
Yep,
Um,
by a good chunk, and they teleport on their own, and they're more
yeah,
durable, and they've
yep,
got a longer range. The range is critical
yep,
because
yeah.
salamanders,
It's not 12 inches. Yep.
it's really easy to screen against. Heck,
Yeah,
damage per point, they were on par with old salamanders. Why did we get nerfed again?
because it was scary.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's basically the army. They're gonna have some guys in boats. They're gonna fly their boats. Your main objective is to screen so that as limited amount of their guns are able to alpha strike you.
Yeah,
Um,
preferably two screens deep. Y-
Yes, because the weakness of KO is that if you kill their big ships and they're running big ship build, you've won because all those guys on it have like 4 and 5 inch movement.
mhm. Even
So
better,
if you
yeah,
can't beat an opponent with 4 and 5 inch movement,
as
uh,
Seraphon.
you're playing poorly. Yeah, um, like it's yeah. That's how you win. Like you kill their big ships. You don't even necessarily have to kill the guys that are in it. You just need to take away their mobility.
Yep, and Seraphon can definitely do that. Our
Hmm.
A big 40 blob of skinks will knock a ship, if not out of the sky completely. It will knock it down to where it won't be able to teleport, even if they heal it. And even
Yes.
then, they and a grounded boat is just about a dead boat.
And another important thing to know about their fly high is that it is like Lords of Space and Time. They can leave combat with it,
Yep.
and it doesn't count as a retreat. They can still shoot. Um, so when you surround a frigate, like you want to make sure that it's lost fly high. The other thing is that when a frigate dies, they disembark the guys that are inside of it, and they have to be set up wholly within 6 inches of where the frigate was, more than 3 inches from other enemy units. So if you can engulf a ironclad, uh, it's worth it to kill it.
Wave hello to
Like
the seer and any
exactly.
melee unit. They can do a
So
lot of damage.
skinks, skinks are worth charging into a frigate that you've already shot, um, because it's a big old base. It's a Carnosaur base. You can fight in two ranks. You should be able to almost fully envelop it. So between shooting and combat, if you have Serpent Staff, you should kill the frigate, and then everything inside of it will also die.
Hmm.
Um,
Which, like you said, isn't necessary, but it's just gravy.
Yeah, and it helps a lot. Like you you remove so many points and so much firepower. Like if you can do it, that should be your goal. But you can ignore Arcanaut Company once they're out of a boat for the most part, unless you need the objective they're holding.
Yeah, Arcanaut Company is so sad.
I mean, they're not bad. They're 120 points if I remember for 10, and they're an 8 inch range, threes and fours for their pistol, and then they've got swords that are fours and fours. Like just looking at their base and a 4+ save,
Arcanaut Company are 90 points.
they're 90. Yeah,
Yep.
so that's even better. Like they're better than like Chaos Warriors or Saurus Warriors
Mm.
or like a lot of units in that range.
They just don't
There's
do a lot of damage when they're not on an objective point.
Yep, exactly. But they're still perfectly good units. They just have low range and low movement. so they're very easy to play around.
Yep. Also, why a lot of people don't like putting them in their boats because you can't shoot when you teleport with them.
Yes, yeah. So a lot of times you'll see Thunderverse. Um,
Because they're just so cool. That's the thing
yes,
about KO. It's hard to hate them because they're just awesome.
yeah. Who doesn't like a Jules Verne esque flying Skydwarf army?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but a lot of counterplay against this army in order to get a more favorable matchup with Seraphon. It's all about deployment. Um, you're gonna have to accept that they're gonna shoot some things, and you're gonna have to give them stuff to shoot.
Mm.
Like if you don't force them to shoot something, they'll get to choose what they shoot.
Things
Um,
are going to die. That's something
yep,
when people really have to learn in AOS.
yep,
It's okay if things die. And in this
and
case, it's inevitable.
yes, and the main goal is to make your opponent choosing to go first mandatory. Um, you don't want them to be able to choose to go second. If KO gets to choose to go second
The
because of
double
how you
kern will kill
deployed,
you.
you've made a mistake. Um, like you want to force them to have to choose to go first. Uh, and so that should be your primary goal, and you should be operating under that assumption when you're deploying that you're going to have to
Yeah, there's also another
whether
reason
they're
why.
shooting.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why Sotek, our other
Uh-huh.
Starborn, does so well against them as well. Because if you
Yes,
deploy aggressively enough, you can make it so they can't teleport because there's nowhere to land.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so they then have to go first because they don't want to let you zone them out. Like they still have good movement. They're a flying ship.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so they don't have to rely on Lords of Space and Time, but you can get on objectives, which they have not the easiest of times stealing objectives. Like it normally takes them 2 turns to do it instead of one,
Right, that's the
which
problem
is
with a
typical
major
of a
shooting
shooting
army.
army. Yep. Um, and so if you can threaten those objectives early, like getting out ahead of them, and get some plink shots onto them, plus our spells, like they can't stop our spells. Um, so if you put them in a situation where like in order to come get you, they're going to be in range of Croak's celestial deliverance. Like they don't want to deal with that.
Because it
So
hits
depend
everyone on the boat.
yeah, and they don't want to give us first turn because if we put Croak on a Bellwind and he's in cover, like, and we've got guard, they're just not going to kill him. Like, they're
Mm-hmm.
not going to be able to do it, and then they're going to be in range, and everything, the boat and everyone in it's going to be taking some mortal wounds.
Mm.
Um,
One interesting thing to note for everybody: garrisoned units do not capture, and
yes,
so they have to kill you entirely to take an objective point from you because boats count
they're
as
only
one.
one model. Yep.
Yep. So if you can hold on with just two skinks, they can't take it from you. Unless they have
Yes.
multiple boats focusing on an objective point. And with 8 objective point battle plans, that's not a feasible thing anymore.
Yeah. Which is another reason you see some more of the Skyhauler list, like where they're running two Skyhaulers and a couple frigates instead of just like the one ironclad. Like the
Mm-hmm.
need to spread out to have more access to objectives has definitely uh, decreased the potential lethality that you can run with KO. Um, but it, I think, makes for the overall scarier army. Um,
Yeah, more cannons is more cannons.
yeah. Uh,
The wall of guns.
the other thing that's very effective against KO is negative to hit. Um, so bound Geminids, obviously. The Star Priest spell.
Mm-hmm.
Like
They.
don't forget about the Star Priest spell. It's not what it used to be because now we have to target on enemies.
Mm-hmm.
It's no summon Starlight, but it is amazing. Like you want to be casting it. Like don't go for Hand of Glory. Don't go for Tide of Serpents. Like you want that negative to hit. Um,
Yeah.
going from a 4 up to a 5 up is huge, and it makes basically shooting our heroes not worth it because now it's that plus Lookout Sir. So like they
Pl-
don't want to
Plus
they don't
Geminids
want
if
to
you can do
hit
it.
on sixes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Um,
surprisingly for armies nowadays, they don't have any access to pluses to hit. It's
yeah,
so universal to pretty much almost every army has at least one, if not many, many sources of pluses to hit, and KO just doesn't have them. So yeah,
Yep.
hit a boat with Geminids and Starlight, and they actually cannot hit your heroes. They hit on sixes.
Yeah. It becomes yeah, it just helps so much. Like a whole boat, even on sixes, will probably still kill a skink star priest,
Well, yeah,
uh,
it's a skink
which is
star
good.
priest.
It should.
They just have to
Um,
hit once.
exactly. Yeah. But that's sort of how we counterplay against them. Like you have to understand what in your specific build you can afford to lose, and you have to choose to lose it. Like you have to make that their target.
Yeah, with
Um,
KO, the priority list isn't so much what you kill with them first because it's the boat. That's the only thing.
yep.
It's
It's
whether
what you feed them.
it's what you feed them. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Um,
which might want to
in
bring a
terms of like,
Carnosaur then, because
yeah,
a Carnosaur will kill a boat, and if you buff it up properly,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it's
they got to shoot
hard.
it.
Yep, and you
Yeah. Now there's even an argument to take not celestial apotheosis, walk between realms, so that you can make that Carnosaur fly.
oh yeah, well if you have a slan, you can do that anyway.
That's true. Yeah, yeah. But now you
Wow,
can
such
save
a
that
useful
command point.
spell.
In terms of if you're playing against KO and you're just having a miserable time and you're not sure how to build, uh, look at your Kothian's Tell. Like
Hmm.
Croak, 2 units of Saurus Guard.
And
Uh,
at least 60 skinks divided into 10-man screens.
yeah, yeah, you want some 10-man skink screens, and salamanders. Like salamanders are great
Mm.
against
If it,
KO.
yeah, if anyone wants to know why screens are great, watch me and Putz's game. Even though I played poorly, it
Yeah,
does a
yeah, yeah.
great example of why skink screening works as well as it does.
And salamanders are particularly effective against KO. Uh,
Salamanders does great job when there are no screens at the on the
yep,
opponent's side, which is their main big weakness,
yep.
and two, when they have a lot of single targets to hit, durable single
Yes.
targets that rely on their
Uh,
save.
and if you want to start killing off like crew for the ships, you don't care about the negative one to hit as much because sixes are going to deal mortal wounds.
Hmm.
Um, so it's not quite as big of a detriment, and you don't care as much about their +1 to save.
Yeah.
Like if you're like, oh, I need to kill off their hero because this is a battle plan that favors heroes, like that sort of thing.
Hmm.
Salamanders are a great tool against KO. Um,
Yeah. Generally, their main weakness is in every army. It's big clouds of units because they don't have the damage output and to deal with a 30 or a 40-man block.
Yes.
But
Uh, be prepared to have to spend command points on Battle Shock, though.
yes.
For if you like, if you're running a typical Fangs of Sotek list, um, having a command point floating, either through bringing like Shadow Strike just for the artifact command point lower drops, or paying 50 to get a CP. Like if you're in a heavy KO meta, you want a floating command point to start the game with. Um, because you're going to have to sacrifice one of those big blobs of skinks, and preferably you want to be able to inspiring presence it in case they're going for the double turn. That way it's still there if they double turn you.
Mm, yeah. Yeah. The fun thing, if they don't kill a 10-man, your 10-man's probably fine. But if they hit a big 40 and chew through that,
Yeah.
if there's anything left afterwards, actually, they
Well,
can.
and the other thing is if you have like two 40-man blobs of skinks and you don't have a command point, they're going to split their fire and severely damage both of them, because there's no reason not to. They want to cause battle shock on both of them. They want to bring both of them at a low enough level that they're not a threat.
Hmm.
But if you have two blocks of 40 and you have a CP, they're going to have to keep shooting that block. Um, they're less likely to be able to get advantage out of switching targets and spreading their damage. Like you're forcing them to commit to isolate their damage, which can, in some cases, cut their shooting effectiveness in half, like just by that simple act of having a floating CP.
Hmm. And it's not like we're all that hungry for CP anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, if you can survive the first turn against KO and you don't get double turned because you did a proper job of setting up, and
Yep.
then you're gonna be fine.
And KO is like still a brittle army.
Oh
Like
yeah.
if you can do 18 wounds to a 3+ save, you can cripple half their army. Which we as Seraphon definitely can do.
Yep.
Um,
I
so
rem-
we have a lot of ability to force them to have to take first turn. It's try and play with line of sight. Like if you're able to take your Realm Shaper engine, like against KO, always put it on the table because they're just going to garrison their boats anyways. It's win-win. Um, and you can use it to potentially block line of sight on like your Star Priest or whatever else you care about, your Ashlyth Bearer, like some of those heroes that they're going to try and snipe. Um, if you want to play gutsy, it can be very worth it. Like if you're not confident in the matchup, to give them shots at Croak if you have 2 units of Sarsguard. In theory, they shouldn't be able to kill him, and if they don't, they've just fizzled. Like you'll probably win after that. Um, but it's also very high risk. Like if they roll outside of standard deviation, they could definitely blow him up.
it's a good. They have about a 20% chance,
Yeah, yep.
but
But I've won a game by rolling 4 6s out of 4 dice before, so it
I mean,
definitely can
yeah,
happen.
it's a dice game.
Yep.
It's kind of the inverse of the old uh, I did the calculations, but man, I'm bad at math.
Ah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I did the calculations, but this is a dice game.
yeah. But that's pretty much how to play versus KO in a
Mhm.
nutshell. Like it's all about understanding their boat mechanics, um, properly zoning. It's a deployment game. Like against KO, it's a deployment game.
Yep, most games are. Less so for us because we're so flexible and some of our units are so fast.
Yeah, we normally have the advantage for deployment. Like especially if you're playing Starboard. Like, um, that's the whole reason I got into Seraphon is like we were a deployment army. Like we could give away so little information, maximize the information we receive, and we could force our opponent to have to spread out and play against multiple strategies and change on the fly.
Mm.
That's exactly what this army does. Like they are
It's
that army.
it's
They do
also
that
why I
well.
kind of lean into high drops, seeing we can't go low drops,
Mm, mm.
because being able to deny your opponent information because your first four setups are I deploy off the board, I deploy off the board, I deploy off the board
Yeah. Well, I
is
mean, and it is always great to be able to dictate tempo to if you want to, like, oh, it's advantageous for me to go first, it's advantageous for me to go second. That's huge.
mm,
But there's really only two armies in the game that we care about that a lot right now, and that's KO and Disciples of Zinj. And
yep.
we can't outdrop 1 and 2 drops, so it just doesn't matter.
Right. And in fact, that brings up probably why we're doing so well in the meta at the moment is because we are a hard counter to one of the main threats at the moment, and a
Yeah, yeah,
soft counter to two others.
yep,
The big top dog armies fear Seraphon, and the ones
yes,
that we have problems with aren't doing very well.
yeah.
If
I mean,
Legion.
KO is rough for us. Like, it's
Right.
I think our hardest matchup. Um,
Well, right, but not by inherently what it does, but because of why it's good right now. If
yeah,
KO
yeah.
was what it was, but was dealing half the damage, we
Oh,
wouldn't
yeah, yeah.
fear it at all.
Yep.
Which is like Legions of Nagash, if it was good, would be a nightmare for Seraphon to fight. If
Yeah, because they would just grind
yeah,
us down.
Gits, if they were good, would be a nightmare for Seraphon to fight.
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
Skaven, if they didn't just go all heavy war machines and their foot sloggers weren't pretty mediocre, would be a nightmare for Seraphon to fight. Because as glass cannon as we are, we really don't do all that much damage.
Yeah, yeah, we're much more glass than we are cannon.
Yep. And so I have a feeling that we're dominant right now, mainly because the good armies we're fighting are ones we're good against.
Killable. Yeah.
Yes. Heck, we can't even deal with pink horrors. The main reason we do well against Zinch is because we're so anti magic.
Yeah, and pink horrors got so much more expensive than they used to be.
Yep.
Um, like they're down 20 pink cores from what they used to be when their book came out, and that's pretty massive.
But yeah, so that's the short of KO. The long on any army could go for hours, and I'm afraid I don't have that amount of time.
Yeah, same. I'm not a night person, so
Fair enough. Is there anything else you think we should cover?
no, that's the main stuff. Definitely, if you're still sticking with us through these podcasts, ask us, give us questions like in comments and that sort of a thing. Like, give us a direction for what armies you want to see. If you're listening
Yep.
to this video and you're like, oh wow, I had this major question and it wasn't addressed, or this wasn't a very consumable format, like we'd love feedback.
Yep.
Um, Always appreciated.
Yeah. Wasn't the yeah. This year has been hard on us. Our schedule on everybody in general. I bet our
Yeah.
schedule kind of shifted pretty hard to the left, which is why
Yes.
we've been doing mostly army reviews.
Yeah.
But well, with that said, the jungle
Jungles
is
are calling.
calling me home. Yep.
Alrighty.
But thank you all for joining us tonight.
Yeah. Thank you.